Good evening. Tonight, we travel back more than 2,000 years to explore one of the most influential civilizations in human history. The story of Rome is a story of ambition, warfare, politics, engineering, and endurance. It begins not as an empire, but as a small settlement beside a river in central Italy. A place that, according to legend, was founded by a man named Romulus. Whether that story is true or not, it became one of the most famous origin tales ever told. According to Roman tradition, the city of Rome was founded in 753 BC. The legend begins with twin brothers, Romulus and Remus. The twins were said to be descendants of the Trojan hero Aeneas, who had fled the destruction of Troy generations earlier. As infants, Romulus and Remus were abandoned beside the Tiber River. The river flowed through the hills of central Italy and would become the lifeblood of the future city. The story tells us that the twins were discovered by a she-wolf. The animal protected them and allowed them to survive. Eventually, they were found and raised by a shepherd and his wife. As the boys grew older, they learned of their royal ancestry. Determined to establish a city of their own, they returned to the hills near the Tiber, but disagreements soon emerged. Both brothers wanted to rule, neither wished to yield. According to the legend, the conflict ended in violence. Romulus killed Remus. Romulus then became the sole founder and first ruler of Rome. Modern historians do not believe this story literally happened. However, the legend reveals how the Romans saw themselves. They admired strength, they respected determination, and they believed greatness often came through struggle. Archaeological evidence suggests that small farming communities already existed on the hills of Rome, long before the traditional founding date. These settlements gradually merged together. The location was ideal. The Tiber River provided water and trade opportunities. The surrounding hills offered protection. Nearby routes connected northern and southern Italy. Over time, the settlement grew. The Romans later claimed that 7 kings ruled the city during its earlier centuries. The first was Romulus himself. Whether all 7 kings truly existed remains uncertain. Much of what we know about this period comes from stories written centuries later, yet historians believe Rome was indeed governed by kings during its earliest history. These rulers oversaw military campaigns, they judged disputes, they supervised religious ceremonies, and they helped transform a cluster of villages into an organized city. During this period, Rome came under the influence of the Etruscans. The Etruscans were a powerful civilization located north of Rome. They possessed advanced engineering skills. They built roads. They drained marshlands. They constructed temples. Many features that later became associated with Rome may have originated with Etruscan influence. Roman religion was also shaped by neighboring cultures. The Romans adopted and adapted many gods from other peoples. Religion became deeply intertwined with public life. Every major political decision required divine approval. Priests interpreted signs, sacrifices were offered, ceremonies marked important events, and the Romans believed maintaining good relations with the gods was essential for success. As Rome expanded, its institutions grew more sophisticated. One of the most important was the Senate. The Senate began as a council of influential men who advised the king. Although its powers were limited during the monarchy, it would later become one of the most important political bodies in Roman history. Around 509 BC, according to Roman tradition, the monarchy came to an end. The final king was known as Tarquin the Proud. Roman writers portrayed him as a tyrant. Whether the details are accurate remains debated. What matters is that the Romans believed they had overthrown a king. The memory of this event shaped Roman politics for centuries. They developed a deep suspicion of monarchy. They believed no single individual should possess unlimited authority. In place of kings, Rome established a republic. The word republic comes from the Latin phrase res publica, meaning the public thing. Government was now considered a shared responsibility. Power was divided among multiple institutions. At the center of the new system were two officials known as consuls. Each year, citizens elected two consuls. These leaders shared executive authority. Neither could act completely without the other. The arrangement was designed to prevent one person from becoming too powerful. Alongside the consuls stood the Senate. Its members came largely from aristocratic families. Although technically advisory, the Senate exercised enormous influence. It guided foreign policy, it managed finances, it helped shape legislation. Roman politics, however, was far from equal. Society was divided into distinct groups. The patricians represented wealthy aristocratic families. The plebeians made up the majority of the population. For many years, plebeians had limited political rights. This imbalance produced a long political struggle. Historians call it the conflict of the orders. Plebeians demanded greater representation. They wanted legal protections. They sought a voice in government. Gradually, they achieved important victories. One of the most significant developments was the creation of the 12 tables. These laws were publicly displayed. For the first time, Roman citizens could see the rules that governed them. The 12 tables became a foundation of Roman law. They helped establish the principle that laws should be written and accessible. The Republic continued to evolve. As internal disputes gradually eased, Rome focused increasingly on expansion. Throughout the 4th and 3rd centuries BC, Rome fought numerous wars across the Italian peninsula. Its opponents included neighboring Latin communities. It battled the Samnites in central Italy. It confronted powerful Greek cities in the south. These conflicts were often long and difficult. Defeat did not discourage the Romans. Again and again, they rebuilt armies and returned to the battlefield. One of Rome's most famous early enemies was King Pyrrhus of Epirus. Pyrrhus was an experienced commander. His army included war elephants. To the Romans, the sight of elephants on the battlefield was astonishing. Pyrrhus won several victories. Yet each victory came at enormous cost. His losses were so severe that he reportedly remarked that another such victory would ruin him. The phrase Pyrrhic victory survives to this day. It describes a success achieved at such a high cost that it resembles defeat. Eventually, Pyrrhus withdrew. Rome emerged stronger. By approximately 270 BC, Rome dominated most of the Italian peninsula. Its influence now stretched from the northern regions to the southern coasts. What made Rome unusual was not simply its military success, it was also its ability to integrate conquered peoples. Many defeated communities became allies. Some received varying degrees of citizenship, others supplied troops for Roman armies. This system created a vast network of manpower and loyalty. The foundations of future expansion had been established. Rome was no longer a small city beside a river. It was becoming the dominant power in Italy, and beyond Italy lay new opportunities. Across the Mediterranean, another great civilization watched Rome's rise. Its name was Carthage, and before long, the two powers would collide. The struggle between them would transform the ancient world. But that is a story for the next part. For now, let the hills of early Rome fade into the distance. Let the sounds of the Forum grow quiet. And as the Republic prepares to step onto the world stage, allow yourself to drift peacefully into the next chapter of history. Rome now controlled most of Italy. Its armies had defeated rival cities. Its alliances stretched across the peninsula. Its confidence was growing. But beyond Italy stood another great power. Across the western Mediterranean lay Carthage. The city of Carthage was located in North Africa, near modern-day Tunisia. Founded centuries earlier by Phoenician settlers, it had become one of the richest cities in the world. Its merchants traded across the Mediterranean. Its ships sailed to distant shores. Its wealth flowed from commerce, agriculture, and naval power. Where Rome dominated land, Carthage dominated the sea. At first, the two powers coexisted, but as both expanded, conflict became increasingly likely. The spark came from Sicily. Sicily sat between Italy and North Africa. Its location made it strategically important. Whoever controlled Sicily could influence trade and military movement across the central Mediterranean. In 264 BC, disputes involving cities on the island drew both Rome and Carthage into conflict. The First Punic War had begun. The word Punic comes from the Roman term for the Carthaginians. Neither side could have predicted how long the struggle would last. The war quickly revealed a problem for Rome. The Romans were masters of land warfare, but they possessed little naval experience. Carthage, by contrast, had one of the strongest fleets in the Mediterranean. To challenge Carthage, Rome needed ships, lots of ships. According to tradition, the Romans captured a Carthaginian vessel and used it as a model. Shipyards worked tirelessly. Timber was gathered, workers hammered planks into place, oars were fitted, sails were raised. Within a remarkably short time, Rome had created a fleet. Yet, building ships was only the beginning. Sailing required skill. Naval combat required experience. The Carthaginians possessed generations of maritime knowledge. The Romans needed an advantage. They found one in innovation. They developed a boarding bridge known as the corvus. When enemy ships approached, the bridge could be dropped onto the opposing vessel. Roman soldiers would then rush across. The battle became less a naval engagement and more a land battle fought at sea. This suited the Romans perfectly. The war dragged on for more than 2 decades. Both sides suffered setbacks. Storms destroyed fleets. Battles consumed thousands of lives. Yet, Rome persisted. Finally, in 241 BC, Carthage was defeated. Sicily became Rome's first overseas province. The victory transformed Rome. No longer was it merely an Italian power, it had become a Mediterranean power. But peace would not last. In Carthage, one family never forgot the humiliation of defeat. That family belonged to Hamilcar Barca. Hamilcar was one of Carthage's most respected commanders. According to later accounts, he made his young son swear eternal hostility toward Rome. That boy was Hannibal. Few individuals would become more feared in Roman history. As Hannibal grew older, he developed into a brilliant military leader. He possessed courage, intelligence, determination, and a deep understanding of warfare. When conflicts between Rome and Carthage resumed in 218 BC, Hannibal made a decision that stunned the ancient world. Instead of attacking Rome by sea, he would attack by land. His army marched from Spain, across rivers, across hostile territory, and eventually toward the Alps. The Alps were among the most formidable mountain ranges in Europe. Crossing them was dangerous even in favorable conditions. Yet, Hannibal attempted the impossible. Thousands of soldiers climbed narrow mountain paths. Snow covered the peaks. Cold winds swept through the valleys. Animals slipped on icy trails. Many men perished, yet enough survived. When Hannibal emerged into northern Italy, the Romans were shocked. An enemy army had appeared where they least expected it. The campaign that followed became legendary. Hannibal defeated Roman forces at the Battle of the Trebia. Then he struck again at Lake Trasimene. There, his troops ambushed a Roman army and inflicted devastating losses. Fear spread throughout Rome. The Republic faced one of the greatest threats in its history. Still, the worst was yet to come. In 216 BC, Roman leaders assembled an enormous army. They hoped to crush Hannibal once and for all. The two forces met near the town of Cannae. The Romans outnumbered Hannibal. Many believed victory was certain. Instead, the battle became one of the greatest tactical masterpieces ever recorded. Hannibal deliberately allowed the center of his line to bend backward. The Romans pressed forward. As they advanced, Carthaginian forces closed around both flanks. The Roman army found itself surrounded. Chaos erupted. Thousands were trapped. Thousands more were killed. By the end of the battle, one of the largest Roman armies ever assembled had been destroyed. The defeat at Cannae echoed across the Mediterranean. Some Roman allies abandoned the Republic. Others questioned whether Rome could survive. Yet, Rome refused to surrender. That determination became one of its defining qualities. Again and again, Roman armies were rebuilt. New recruits filled the ranks. New commanders took the field. The Senate remained committed to resistance. Years passed. Hannibal continued to win victories, but he never received enough support to destroy Rome completely. Meanwhile, Roman strategy evolved. One commander in particular began to emerge. His name was Scipio. Later generations would know him as Scipio Africanus. Scipio understood that defeating Hannibal in Italy would be difficult. Instead, he attacked Carthaginian territories elsewhere. His campaigns in Spain weakened Carthaginian power. Then, he carried the war directly into North Africa. Suddenly, Carthage itself was threatened. Hannibal was recalled from Italy. After nearly 15 years of campaigning, he returned home. The final showdown came in 202 BC at a place called Zama. There, Scipio and Hannibal faced one another, two of history's greatest commanders, two armies representing rival civilizations. The battle ended in Roman victory. Hannibal was defeated. Carthage survived, but its power was broken. Rome had won the Second Punic War. Its position in the Mediterranean was stronger than ever. Yet, Roman ambitions continued to grow. Over the following decades, Rome became increasingly involved in the Eastern Mediterranean. Greek kingdoms that had emerged after the death of Alexander the Great found themselves drawn into Roman affairs. Wars followed. Roman armies marched east. Kingdom after kingdom fell under Roman influence. Eventually, much of Greece came under Roman control. Although Rome conquered Greece militarily, Greek culture deeply influenced Rome in return. Roman elites studied Greek philosophy. Greek art decorated Roman buildings. Greek literature became widely admired. In many ways, the conquerors became students of the conquered. Meanwhile, tensions with Carthage remained. Some Roman leaders feared the city could recover. Among them was Cato the Elder. He famously ended speeches with the same warning. Carthage must be destroyed. Eventually, Rome acted. In 149 BC, the Third Punic War began. Unlike previous conflicts, the outcome was never truly in doubt. Roman forces besieged Carthage. The city's defenders fought desperately, street by street, house by house. The struggle lasted for years. Finally, in 146 BC, Roman troops entered the city. What followed marked the end of one of the Mediterranean's greatest powers. Carthage was destroyed. Its people were killed, enslaved, or scattered. The centuries-long rivalry had ended. Rome now stood unrivaled in the Western Mediterranean. The same year also saw Rome tighten its grip on Greece. The Republic had become the dominant power of the ancient world. Its territories stretched farther than ever before. Its wealth increased dramatically. Its influence expanded across continents. But success carried new problems. Conquest brought riches. It also brought inequality. Powerful families accumulated enormous wealth. Generals gained prestige. Political competition intensified. Beneath the surface, tensions were beginning to grow. The Republic appeared stronger than ever. Yet, the seeds of future crisis had already been planted. The men who would challenge the old system had not yet appeared. Julius Caesar was still generations away. But The forces that would eventually transform Rome were already taking shape. The age of conquest had made Rome rich. The next age would make Rome unstable. And that story begins in the next chapter. For now, the ships of Carthage have fallen silent. The battlefields of Hannibal fade into memory, and Rome stands alone as the master of the Mediterranean. Sleep peacefully, and let the story continue onward into the final centuries of the Republic, of the